Beloved brothers and sisters, today I want to speak to you about the power of trying again, not in your own strength, but with God. Many people try once, fail, and decide that their story is over. But when God enters the picture, the ending can be completely different. There is a truth I have learned: God does not consult your past to determine your future. He looks at the faith you hold today. When we try again in our own ability, we become tired, we become discouraged, we see limits everywhere. But when we try again with God, something supernatural begins to take place. What was once impossible becomes possible. What was closed begins to open. What was dead begins to rise. The God of the second chance. God is not only the God of creation, He is the God of new beginnings. Even when situations seem hopeless, when your business has collapsed, when your relationships have failed, when your dreams have been buried, God says, try again, but this time let me lead. When you say, Lord, I cannot do it, He answers, that is why I am with you. When you say, I failed before, He whispers, now we will do it together. The power of vision and prayer. Every miracle begins with a vision planted in your heart by God. Do not look at your circumstances. Do not look at your limitations. Lift your eyes and see with the eyes of faith. See the future God is preparing for you. See the breakthrough He is forming. See the miracles that are waiting. Then bring that vision to God in prayer. Not weak prayer, not distracted prayer, but prayer filled with faith. Prayer that believes God will move. When prayer and vision join hands, miracles begin to unfold. Try again, because God is not finished. My friends, your story is not over. Your setback is not the final chapter. If you will try again with God, you will watch mountains move, you will see doors open, and you will witness miracles that no human effort could ever create. Trying again with God produces different results because His involvement changes the very atmosphere of your struggle. When we attempt something on our own, we rely on our limited understanding, our limited strength, and our limited resources. But when we bring God into our situation, we step into a realm where limits no longer define what is possible. What once seemed immovable can suddenly shift. What felt hopeless can begin to show signs of life. The moment we invite God into our efforts, the situation stops being an ordinary challenge and becomes an opportunity for the supernatural to unfold. Many people carry memories of failure, attempts that ended in disappointment, dreams that collapsed, opportunities that slipped away. Those moments often leave a mark on the heart, creating fear and hesitation. The mind whispers, you tried before and you failed. Why try again? Yet fear draws its conclusions only from what happened in the past. God draws His conclusions from what He can do in the present. When you try again without God, you are repeating the same cycle. But when you try again with God, you are stepping onto completely new ground. Trying again with God means shifting the center of the effort from your ability to His power. It means saying, Lord, I have reached my limit, but you have no limit. Sometimes God allows us to come to the end of our resources so that we will finally seek His. Only when we realize that our strength is not enough do we discover how mighty His strength truly is. You may have failed because you depended on your own wisdom, your own timing, or your own plans. But God sees what you cannot see. And He knows the path that leads to breakthrough. What felt like the end of your journey can become the very point where God begins His greatest work. When God steps in, He does not merely repair what is broken, He transforms it. Think of the moments in Scripture where people tried on their own and failed. The disciples fishing all night and catching nothing. The woman suffering for years without relief. The man at the pool unable to reach help. But when God entered their stories, everything changed in a single moment. Nothing about their ability changed, but the presence of God altered the outcome completely. This is the difference between trying again alone and trying again with God. Maybe you have prayed before and felt nothing. Maybe you attempted a business, a relationship, a ministry, a personal goal, and it did not succeed. But the season you failed in is not the season you stand in now. You are not returning to your challenge alone. You are bringing the one who holds all power in his hands. Trying again with God means aligning your heart with his promises, trusting that he is able to open doors, soften hearts, provide resources, and shift circumstances in ways you cannot predict. It also means embracing his timing. Sometimes the failure of yesterday was not because you were incapable, but because the moment was not yet ripe. What God was preparing then, he may be ready to release now. When you try again with him, you are stepping into his perfect timing rather than your own. So do not let your past define your future. Do not let fear silence your faith. God delights in taking what seems impossible and turning it into a testimony. When you try again with him, you are inviting miracles into your story, miracles that will not only change your circumstances, but deepen your trust in his love and power. Trying again with God is not repeating an old attempt. It is beginning anew with the strength of heaven on your side. God is the God of new beginnings because he specializes in taking what appears ruined, forgotten, or broken and breathing new life into it. Human beings often look at situations through the lens of finality. Once something ends, we assume it is over forever. We look at our past mistakes, our failures, and our disappointments and think they disqualify us from a fresh start. But God does not see endings the way we do. Where we see closure, he sees a doorway. Where we see ashes, he sees the foundation for something beautiful. His nature is to restore, renew, and rebuild, even when everything seems beyond repair. When you look at the pattern of God's work throughout history, you see a consistent theme. He brings new beginnings to people who thought they had reached the end. A man who ran away in shame becomes a leader of nations. A fisherman who denied his teacher becomes a foundation of faith. A woman with a past becomes a messenger of hope. This is not coincidence, it is the character of God. He does not define people by their worst moments. He defines them by what he is able to do through them when they surrender their hearts to him. A new beginning is not simply a second chance. It is an invitation into a new story shaped by his grace. Many people believe that they cannot move forward because their past is too heavy. They think the mistakes they made have permanently stained their identity. But God does not hold your past against you when you come to him. He wipes it clean and opens a new path ahead. He does not ask you to pretend your past never happened. Instead, he transforms your past into a testimony that can help others. What once brought shame can become the very thing that reveals God's mercy. What once felt like a dead end can become a doorway to greater purpose. When God gives a new beginning, he does not simply reset your life to where it was before. He brings you into a place of growth, maturity, and deeper understanding. Every ending you experience becomes preparation for what he is about to do next. Sometimes you had to lose something because it was too small for the place he is taking you. Sometimes a door closed because the path you were walking was not aligned with his plan. What felt like rejection may have been protection. What felt like failure may have been training. What felt like loss may have been the pruning required for greater fruit. A new beginning from God is also accompanied by a new strength. When you try to create your own fresh start, you often carry the weight of your past with you. But when God gives you a new beginning, he lifts the burdens that once held you down. He renews your mind, calms your fears, and fills your heart with a sense of purpose. You find yourself able to dream again, hope again, and believe again. You begin to see possibilities where you once saw obstacles. You feel a quiet confidence rising within you, not based on your abilities, but on his promises. And the beautiful truth is this: God never runs out of new beginnings. You may feel like you have exhausted all chances, but he does not measure you by the number of times you fell. He looks at the sincerity of your heart today. Every morning you wake up is evidence that God is giving you another opportunity to walk in his plan. As long as there is breath in your lungs, there is a new chapter waiting to be written. So lift your eyes from your past. Release the guilt and fear that try to hold you captive. God is ready to do something new in your life. Something greater than what was lost. Something stronger than what was broken. Something more beautiful than what you expected. He is the God of new beginnings, and your new beginning can start now. Human strength is limited, but God's power is limitless. And this truth becomes clearer the more we face the realities of life. Every human being eventually reaches a point of exhaustion, emotionally, physically, or spiritually. We try to fix situations with our own thinking, our own strategies, our own energy, and sometimes it works for a while. But eventually we hit walls we cannot climb, problems we cannot solve, burdens we cannot carry. This is because we were never designed to live life solely on human strength. Our strength is temporary, but God's power is eternal. Our ability is small, but His is infinite. He invites us to rely on Him, not because we are weak, but because He desires to show us what can happen when the supernatural enters the natural. Many people live their lives feeling constantly frustrated or disappointed because they depend only on their own abilities. They believe that if they think hard enough, work long enough, or push strong enough, everything will fall into place. But life is full of situations that cannot be resolved by human logic alone. There are moments when wisdom fails, when finances run out, when relationships break despite effort, when doors refuse to open no matter how hard we knock. These moments do not exist to crush us. They exist to teach us that there is a power far greater than our own, a power that can accomplish what our effort never could. Depending on human strength alone creates anxiety. We worry because we know deep down that our strength has limits. We fear the future because we know we cannot control it. We hold tightly to what we have because we know we cannot produce everything we need. But when we shift our trust from our strength to God's power, something remarkable happens. Our fear loses its grip. We begin to walk with the confidence that does not come from what we can do, but from who God is. Faith replaces anxiety. Peace replaces pressure. Hope replaces despair. This is not denial. It is the result of trusting in a power greater than anything we face. God's power is limitless because He is not bound by the restrictions of this world. He does not run out of solutions. He does not grow tired. He does not worry about lack. He sees every detail of what you are facing, every corner of the problem, every unseen battle. And He has the authority to change what looks unchangeable. When He moves, impossible situations shift. When He speaks, storms quiet. When He stretches His hand, what was broken is restored. What takes us years of effort can be transformed in a moment by His power. This does not mean we stop working or stop trying. It means we work with the understanding that the ultimate outcome rests in His hands. It means we do what we can and trust Him with what we cannot. Human strength was never meant to carry the full weight of life. God invites us to hand Him our burdens because He knows we were never meant to bear them alone. Sometimes God allows us to come to the end of our strengths so we will discover His. When we realize we cannot fix everything, we finally open our hearts to the One who can. When we admit our limitations, we make room for His unlimited power to flow. What looks like weakness becomes the doorway to miracles. What feels like failure becomes the space where God reveals His glory. So do not be discouraged by your limitations. They are not signs of defeat. They are reminders that you were created to rely on someone greater than yourself. God's power is limitless, and when you lean on Him, you step into a life where miracles are possible, breakthroughs are attainable, and hope is never out of reach. Your strength may fail, but His never will. Vision is the seed of every miracle because nothing truly changes in a person's life until something first changes in their heart and mind. Every great work God performs begins with a picture He places within you, an inner knowing, a quiet conviction, a glimpse of what could be, even when your circumstances show the opposite. Vision is not simply imagination. It is the ability to see beyond what is visible, to look past your limitations, and focus on the promise God is whispering to your spirit. Before God transforms your situation, He often transforms your perspective. He plants a vision inside you so that you can carry the future before it arrives. Many people live without miracles because they live without vision. They only see what is happening now. They see their problems, their bills, their sickness, their failures, their fear, but they cannot see what God is capable of doing. As long as a person sees only the present struggle, they remain trapped in it. But when a person begins to see the possibility of change, when they begin to see God bringing healing, restoration, growth, or breakthrough, faith awakens. And where faith awakens, miracles follow. Vision activates faith like a spark, ignites fire. Vision is powerful because it refuses to accept failure as the final outcome. It is the inner voice that says, "This is not the end. Something greater is coming." It is the divine whisper that reminds you that your current situation is not your permanent identity. Vision allows you to walk through difficulty with hope, because you know that what you see right now is temporary. Even if everything around you screams defeat, vision repeats the promise of victory. Even if doors close, vision shows a door that God will open. Even if people doubt you, vision reminds you that God is not limited by their opinions. But vision must be protected. The world will try to shrink your dreams. People around you may speak from fear, not faith. Circumstances may convince you to settle for less than what God has spoken to your heart. That is why you must guard the vision within you like a seed planted in the soil. A seed does not grow overnight. It needs time, watering, patience, and protection. If you dig it up every day to check its progress, it cannot grow. In the same way, if you doubt your vision every time circumstances look difficult, it cannot take root. You must nurture it with prayer, water it with faith, and protect it from negativity. Vision also requires obedience. When God gives you a vision, He often gives you steps to take. These steps may seem small, ordinary, or even unrelated to the dream, but they are essential. The vision grows as you walk in obedience. A person who sees God's promise but refuses to take the steps God gives will never reach the miracle. Vision that is followed by action becomes faith in motion, and faith in motion invites God's supernatural power. Many great miracles in history began with a simple vision, a vision of freedom, a vision of healing, a vision of provision, a vision of transformation. God plants the vision not because you are capable of achieving it alone, but because He wants to work with you. The vision is His invitation to partner with Him. It is His way of saying, "This is what I want to do in your life. Believe it, see it, walk toward it, and watch me bring it to pass." When you hold on to a God-given vision, you are holding on to the future He has designed for you. You begin to see yourself not as you are, but as God sees you. And when your vision aligns with His promises, miracles become not just possible, they become expected. Vision is the seed of every miracle, and when you dare to see with the eyes of faith, you open the door for God to do what only He can do. Prayer activates God's intervention, because it is the moment when human limitation meets divine power. Prayer is not simply speaking words into the air or repeating religious phrases. It is the act of opening the door of your life and inviting God to step in with His authority, wisdom, and strength. When you pray with faith, you are declaring that you cannot do it on your own, that you need the one who sees beyond your present, who knows the end from the beginning, and who holds all things in His hands. Prayer is the bridge between the natural and the supernatural, the place where heaven touches earth. Many people underestimate the power of prayer because they look for instant results. They pray once, see no immediate change, and assume nothing happened. But prayer is not like a switch that always produces instant light. It is more like planting a seed that takes time to grow, develop, and surface. Something happens every time you pray, even when you do not see it. God is moving pieces, aligning people, opening doors, softening hearts, and preparing the path ahead of you. Much of His work happens in the unseen realm long before it becomes visible in your life. When you pray, you activate God's process, not just His answer. Prayer is also powerful because it shifts your focus from the problem to the one who is greater than the problem. Worry magnifies the issue. Prayer magnifies God. When you focus on how large your challenge is, you become overwhelmed. When you focus on how powerful God is, your fear begins to melt away. Prayer strengthens your inner spirit. It reminds you that you are not alone. It fills you with peace even when the situation has not yet changed. That peace itself is a sign that God is working within you before He works around you. There are situations in life that cannot be solved by effort, intelligence, or strategy alone. There are battles that are spiritual in nature. Battles of discouragement, fear, sickness, confusion, division, or unexpected attacks from the enemy. Human strength cannot fight spiritual battles, but prayer can. Prayer calls upon God's authority, and when God steps into a spiritual battle, the enemy must retreat. Darkness cannot stand in the presence of His light. Confusion cannot survive where His clarity enters. Fear cannot dominate when His peace floods the heart. Prayer releases God's power into battles that would destroy you if you fought them alone. Another reason prayer activates God's intervention is that it aligns your will with His. Sometimes we pray for things that are not part of God's plan, and He lovingly redirects us. Other times we pray for something He already desires to give us, and our prayer becomes the doorway that allows Him to move. Prayer is not about convincing God, it is about cooperating with Him. He waits for your prayer because He respects your free will. He will not force His way into your life. But when you pray, you are granting Him permission to work deeply, powerfully, and fully. Prayer also transforms you. It humbles your heart, removes pride, and builds faith. A person who prays consistently becomes spiritually sensitive. They begin to hear God's guidance more clearly, feel His presence more deeply, and recognize His hand more quickly. Prayer changes your attitude, your reactions, and your perspective. The more you pray, the more your heart becomes aligned with God's heart. You start seeing situations the way He sees them, not through fear but through faith. And finally, prayer activates miracles. Throughout history, impossible situations have shifted because someone prayed with bold belief. Doors opened that no human could open. Chains broke that no one could remove. Lives changed that seemed beyond restoration. Prayer does not just move the hand of God, it prepares your heart to receive the miracle He desires to give. When you pray with faith, you are inviting God to intervene. You are creating space for His power to flow, His wisdom to guide, and His miracles to unfold. Prayer activates God's intervention because it is the connection point between your need and His limitless power. Your setback is not your ending because God has a way of turning the places where you fell into the very places where you rise again. Life is full of moments that shake us. Moments when dreams collapse, relationships break, plans fall apart, and unexpected storms leave us feeling empty or defeated. In those moments, it is easy to believe that the story is over, that failure has the final word, or that nothing good can come out of what happened. But God does not write stories with permanent endings at the point where you stopped. He writes stories where every setback becomes a setup for something greater. What looks like a full stop to you is often just a comma in His plan. What looks like loss to you may be preparation for a deeper victory. A setback often feels final because it wounds the heart. It creates disappointment and fear. You begin to question your purpose, your abilities, and sometimes even your worth. But feelings are not facts, and setbacks are not destiny. God sees beyond the moment you are in. He sees the growth hidden inside the struggle, the strength you are developing, the lessons you are learning, and the new doors He is preparing to open. Sometimes, the setback is the very tool He uses to shift you into a better place, realign your path, or position you for something you were not ready for before. Every person who has ever reached greatness has walked through setbacks. The ones who rise are not those who never fell. They are those who learn to stand again, this time with God beside them. When you try again with God, the outcome changes because you are no longer relying on your own strength. You are walking with the one who can restore what was lost, rebuild what was broken, and rewrite what seemed ruined. Your setback only becomes an ending if you stop moving forward, but if you place your hand in God's hand, He will lead you into a new chapter. Sometimes a setback is God's way of protecting you from something that would have harmed you. Other times, it is God's way of redirecting you towards something better than you imagined. There are moments when opportunities close because God has something greater waiting. There are seasons when a dream falls apart because He is preparing you for a larger calling. When you look back later, you will often see that what felt like the worst moment was actually the turning point that led to your greatest blessing. A setback can also reveal what is inside you. It shows your resilience, exposes areas that need healing, and reveals the depth of your faith. Through hardship, God shapes your character, strengthens your trust, and prepares you to handle the blessings that are coming. A blessing received too early can be lost too quickly, but a blessing received after growth becomes a blessing you can sustain. God may allow a delay so that when the breakthrough arrives, you are mature enough to carry it. What matters most is how you respond when life pushes you back. If you hold on to the belief that God is with you, you find courage even in the darkest places. You begin to rise again. Not because you are strong on your own, but because God's strength fills the places where you feel weak. He lifts you when you cannot lift yourself. He opens doors you cannot open. He restores hope when your heart feels empty. Your setback is not your ending because God is still writing your story. You may feel broken now, but He specializes in healing broken pieces. You may feel stuck now, but He is the God who makes a way where there seems to be no way. You may feel like you failed, but He is the God who turns failures into testimonies. As long as you are breathing, God is not finished with you. What you call a setback, He calls a beginning. What you fear is the end, He uses as the foundation for a miracle. Hold on to Him, rise again, and watch how He transforms your setback into a stepping stone for the future He designed for you.